Kia ora, nau mai, haere mai. Welcome to the second webinar in the App Smashing series. Just letting people arrive and sort out their audio and things. So my name's Donald. I'm over here in front of the camera, and behind the camera, just over there, is my friend Jesse, who will be on chat and admitting people from the waiting room and available to anyone who needs. I'll try and concentrate mostly on the slides, and Jesse can field any questions to me that may arise as we go. So thank you everyone for showing up. The purpose of these webinars is to try and give people a bit of a kind of next level view of using digital technology. There's lots of tools out there to play with, and I'm going to be going too much into the nitty-gritty of how exactly specific tools work, but more about the possibilities of using them together, using multiple tools, and what the possibilities are. So last week, Jesse led off with a basic introduction about what app smashing is, and just to catch up if they missed that one, the recording is coming. It's just taking a little while to be processed, but it'll be up online for those who missed it. But app smashing, taking two digital tools and using them together in some kind of project or process. And by using multiple tools, the outputs are more interesting, and you can achieve more different things. But also you can learn a lot more about different apps, about what the possibilities are, and also about what the limitations of those things are. So we should with an opening Karakia, and you're very welcome to join in with me if you like. So Karakia timatanga. Tēnā ka piki ake ki te rangi atu nei, he rangi atua, he rangi tipua, he rangi tāwhito. Kia whiti ko te mataranga, kia tau ko te maramatanga. Whaia kia tata puratia kia mau, haumie huie. Okay. And so this this karakia came to us from Kia Takatu Matahiko, which was a project that we were involved with, that we ran a whole bunch of different workshops in around the country and things to try and support teachers to get up to speed with digital technology. We feel like that work is still needed, so we're kind of continuing this work through webinars. Right, so who am I? Why am I in front of this camera telling you about digital technology? So I am a learning innovation specialist here at Te Papa, along with my colleague Jesse and a number of other really amazing educators. And so our role at Te Papa is to support people to get curious about the world through the collections and exhibitions here at Te Papa. I'm originally from Scotland, and so I have my mihi here, and I've done a lot of and chosen to make New Zealand my home. And I have been working at Te Papa now for about 5 years and just learned so much about the world from here. So yeah, I'm in front of the camera because I feel like I want to share all of the good learning that I have been taking on. And amazing digital learning lab here at Te Papa, and so working with the learning team here at Te Papa, we have had the opportunity, such a great team, to develop lots of really cool tools and resources around using digital technology to have created to the collections and exhibitions at Te Papa. And so it's pretty much the play that we get to do, the tutu that we get to do, that's what I want to share. So last week, Jesse proposed a Wero to people who showed up. The first Wero in this series is going to be in total And the challenge was to find some way to combine ClapMotion and OBS Studio. And so people arriving in the webinar today who don't know what either of these things are, and that's totally fine. And there might be people who know a lot. So the basics are that ClapMotion and OBS Studio are both free digital tools, and we a bunch at Papa with groups of kids to make different kinds of video creative outputs. ClapMotion, Chrome web app. So this is something you can download to Chrome, and it gives you the ability to make stop motion animations. And if you haven't made stop motion animations before, I highly recommend you find some kind of stop motion animation tool to play with, because it's really fun and really simple. There's loads that are available. So if you have a smartphone, look for a stop motion animation app. There's tons of free ones out there, and give it a go. It's really, motion animation is really hands-on, gets really creative, and it's a lovely way to tell stories. It's also something that just has a really high ceiling as far as potential. The more time you spend with it, the greater the detail and the more interesting stories that you can tell. Works for basically any age from our and it works with families working together and everything. So it's a really great tool, really fun, highly recommend it. I'm not going to show you ClapMotion. We've got other resources, webinars and things that we've done all about stop motion animation, and we can share those with you as well. If you search for us on YouTube, then you can find ClapMotion videos about how to use it. OBS is something that's quite different. So OBS Studio is an open source program, which means that the people who coded, who programmed this program, they have made the code of this program available to anyone on the internet who wants to play with it, add to it, adapt it. Nobody owns, no one person owns the code of this program, so it's free to download. Which is great. And it also means that lots of different developers all over the world get to play with the code to make it better for everyone. That's what software is about. And OBS Studio, the OBS stands for Open Broadcaster Software. And so this is about broadcasts. So if in your mind you put the picture of a news broadcast or like all the young people around the world who are streaming their lives, doing cooking channels or beauty shows or computer games. A lot of these people are using programs like OBS. OBS is the top free program. And I will show you a bit about how OBS works, because that will help you understand. It would be really interesting if people could write in the chat and say if they actually managed to find the opportunity to play with stop motion animation in OBS. I would love if anyone actually gave it a go and did some homework. And even if you open things up and decided that this is impossible, this is ridiculous, I hate all this, it's still where people have got to. So I'm going to go through the apps a little bit more, but while I'm talking about, really interested to know if anyone actually managed to get onto these apps and give them a go, or people have used either of these apps in the past with or just for themselves. It'd be really cool to know. So as I was saying, ClapMotion, it's free, it's online, it's a stop motion animation tool. About it being online is you don't have to download anything. It just adds to a Chrome browser, and you can take still images, play them as videos. You can export the videos as video files, and it's really adaptable to lots of different ages. OBS Studio, again, it's free, but you have to download it. So you have to have some kind of computer that you have the control over enough to programs to, which can be a barrier to some schools and things. Fantastic. Yeah. It's okay if you don't manage to do the homework in these things, but I highly recommend you do try and do the homework, because off to a much better start. As teachers often say, go and do your homework. So the OBS, lots of streamers around the world are using it, and by teaching kids how to use a tool like OBS, it just helps them to understand the kind of the artifacts, the streamers that they might watch. And OBS is about pretty much layering different media together to create a broadcast. So right now you'll notice that the background behind me is green. That is so that we can to do a little bit of green screen magic. But hopefully I will demonstrate to you how that works, so that you use something like OBS for yourself. There are other programs out there, free apps and such, for things like iPads, do just the green screen part of it. But OBS is much bigger than that and can give you lots of different opportunities of playing with different. So media sources can include, but are not limited to, cameras, so like the camera that's on a computer, but also still images, video clips. It can also capture the screen that you are using, and so you can demonstrate things. And by using all of these different media sources and combining them, it means that you can tell really rich stories. You can podcasts, you can do all kinds of things. So, Karakia, let's give it a go. I tried, not very successfully. That's fine. That's why we're doing these explanations. So, Karakia, let's give it a go. Let's and see what we can do. So I'm going to switch computers now, and I've used ClapMotion, but only got OBS as I missed last week's session. No worries, Michaela. Thank you so much for joining us. So I'm now going to stop sharing on this computer and share on a computer that's over there. So the old switcheroo. Doo-doo-doo. And this is my screen. Okay, so you should see me now, and if you've got cameras open, you should be able to see this little person with my green background, and then you've also got the ability to see me on OBS. So the interface, yeah, I'll try and concentrate on what I'm trying to say, and then I'll get to questions at the end. But thank you so much for jumping into the chat. So OBS looks like, and it might to some people look a bit scary. There's like quite a lot going on with different. So I will try and talk you through what you are seeing. So I can turn off image background. So I've got a video capture device here. What's going on? The main thing that you want to care about is these sources down here. And so right now I've got two sources which I've turned the eyes off, so you can't see them. We'll show them in a minute. And then I've got a video capture device. So that is the camera that's on top of the computer. It's over there. And then behind my video capture device, I have an image. And so that image is, which is behind me. And you'll notice that when I do this, there's quite a lot of green behind my fingers, because I have added to the camera to try and make the green background, which is behind me, which you can see in the other camera. And so if that background is invisible, then I can appear to be anywhere I want to be. I can just upload that image behind me, and I can convince you that I am swimming underwater or anywhere else. It could be a picture of France. It could be Never Never Land. It could be anywhere that I want to go to. So by playing with layers of different media sources like this, I can places that I want to be. On top of this, you can add extra sources. So down here, this plus button, I can add another source. And so I could add some text. And as I'm adding a layer, the first thing it gives me the option to is name the layer that I'm adding. So this just tries to keep everything nice and tidy. So I'm just going to call this a text layer, if I can spell. Great. And then here it puts the words in. Right. So I can select a font, and I believe I can choose colors. Sweet. Let's do a nice orangey color. Do lots of different effects to these things. There we go. And any of the layers that you add in, you can transform and add things to. So if I right click on my text layer and I go to transform, I can fit to screen. So there we go. And then I can shift that layer to wherever I want it to be. There we go. And any layer has the option to add filters. And one of the filters I quite like when I'm playing with text is scroll. So I'm going to add that, and then I'm going to give it a horizontal speed. And so now I can pretend that I've got a news broadcast. There we go. So that is the basis of how these broadcast shows control these kinds of things. They are playing with layers of media, and they're adding filters and things to. So the video capture device currently, if I right click on it and look at the filters, currently there's a color key here. And so if I increase it, you can see it'll make because my jumper is slightly green and it's reflecting some of the green that's behind me, it's going to start disappearing. If I reduce then the green screen behind me comes back. And there's an important reason why we use green in green screening. Original screens that they used were blue. And the reason they stopped is that because people with very dark complexion sometimes go a little bit invisible, because what it's trying to do is find a contrasting color and then to the thing that you want. So I am not very green normally based on my skin tone. And so if I choose green to make it, then most of me sticks around, which is great. So they used to use blue. That didn't work for everybody. So they switched to green. Faces aren't green. But it doesn't have to be green. It can be lots of different colors. So I have here a couple animations which were made with an animation program. And so I can add the filter to these as well. So I can right click on it, add a filter, color key, and green is chosen by default. I'm just going to increase the amount of filter effect. Yeah, there we go. It's not perfect. In fact, I wonder if I can make a better green. So you'll see it's like there's lots of things to play with in this. And the color and the difference. So if I close that just now, I've now got a whale, a ghostly whale in front of me, which I can now play with. Doesn't that look ridiculous? All right, so there's that example, and here's another one. So in background on this, then the green would be very similar to the blue of the whale. So when we made this stop motion animation, we used an orange background. And so we can add a filter, and we can add a color key. And rather than green, we can choose a custom color. And so I can choose an orange, and that's probably going to be pretty close to it. And now if I increase clarity, there we go. We can make most of the orange disappear as long as it's kind of that color. And so now whale can swim through the ocean over the top of me. So this is the kind of that things like the live action and animation sequences in Bedknobs and Broomsticks and Mary Who Framed Roger Rabbit, these are the kinds of things that they were doing with that as well. And these are some of the uses of green screen. And with if you understand the concept of having layers of media stacked, then you have the ability to pull in multiple different sources to create something. So this is the power. We couldn't create this of me interacting with a whale without using both a tool to create the video with the whale and also OBS, some tool to remove that background. And OBS is powerful because it allows us to control what the filters are and how it works. So that's why I like it. That's why I think it's fun. We're doing all right. I'll switch back to the other computer and share this screen again. There we go. All right. So, what do connection to the curriculum with this? Because it's kind of a whole bunch of digital toys, and like where is the use with any of the digital tools that we play with or recommend? It's really valuable to think about what the context of using that tool is, because it's just a tool. It will be useful in some way if you actually have a real reason. So you have to think about who the audience is that you're creating for, and whether using something like OBS will actually create an output which will be valuable to your students or to the audience that they are creating for. There's lots of really great storytelling opportunities with toys like this, with tools like this. It'll be storytelling that's appropriate to whatever context that you're using it in. When we have used it in our learning lab in a context here, it has often been as a way for students to respond creatively to art in the museum and bring a piece of art, put themselves inside that art. And so to consider how an artwork or a piece of art that they make is actually connected to their identity and who they are and what that means to them. So featuring themselves in that is meaningful. So if that, well, then that's great. So those are ideas around why we would use these things. I really like combining these tools in a process. So, and it might be that just creating a short 10-second stop motion animation is enough of a process and that creates enough of a story. But both of these tools work really well when you have a collaborative group all working together to try and create some overall project. And it might be that it could be an entire class project, which is multiple pieces, multiple scenes that you end up pulling together and recording inside something like OBS, with students who are acting as directors and designers and script writers and prop designers and all kinds of different things. So it's a nice way to create digital outputs that are student explanations of things. So maybe they want to be able to explain scientific process or a creative process or how to make a thing, and for students to be able to work together to create those pieces of work is pretty interesting. So hopefully that has given you a taste of the possibilities of what OBS can do. And the second challenge, the Wero number 2, is to think about try and use OBS with some kind of image manipulation tool. So you could do this just with your camera on your phone, and you could mix or filter images, and you could put them into OBS, and you could see what you could tell about it. You could turn it into, yeah, it's up to you, but I recommend trying to find a way to get OBS off, and if it's not OBS, try and find some tool which will allow you to do green screen. There is free app. Google is your friend. Have a look and see what you can find as far as green screen tools, and see what you can do when you still images and the ability to green screen, make a background like this green screen invisible to see something beyond it. Kind of looking into a wonderland or looking beyond. So that is your challenge for next week. Same place next week on Wednesday, and I'll send out another Zoom link. So thank you everyone who showed up to this one.
2 questions.
2 questions, great, fantastic. We will do the questions. Tomorrow we have a webinar from Rarang Matihiko, which is our it's another digital readiness that we've been running from Te Papa with partner sites all across the Motu, and they are doing a really cool webinar for teachers all about coding across the curriculum. So it's fine to weave coding into different areas of the curriculum. So if that's something that you're interested in, then follow in the chat to the slides and register, or just search for coding across the curriculum webinar to Papa around Matihiko. Follow us on Facebook. We should have things listed there as well. We would love to have you positive or negative or critically supportive. I don't mind. I'm trying to make these webinars valuable for people, recorded, so they will be up online, and you should be able to watch them again if you want to see things. But if you want to get in touch, then you're very welcome. If you want me to do a very specific OBS tutorial setup, then those can be organized as well. All kinds of things. So we'll jump into some questions, and then we will do a Karakia whakamutunga. So what are the questions, Jess?
So I think just hold on, I need to take my headphones off because I'm hearing my voice in the room. Some people are a little bit confused as to whether they use on their Chromebooks or iPads, etc. And then the other one was get the stop motion onto OBS.
Good questions. So OBS is needs to be downloaded onto a computer. Doesn't really work with tablets. doesn't work so well with Chromebooks, unfortunately. So if you are excited by the green screen functionality of it, some people have said you can do green screen effects in iMovie. There is other dedicated apps for iPad as well that will do green screen. If you just search green screen in the App Store, then you find something that's free and works for you. And it doesn't, as far as I know, it doesn't work with Chrome. So there might be other things out there, but this is one of those things that you don't need a whole suite of class computers to it. You only really need one device for an entire class, because the work that you would put into ahead of time to pipeline it so that students have the ability to do it is so much work that you only kind of want to get them in front of the camera to, once they've demonstrated they've got something valuable to actually record. So you don't need that many devices. We've actually gone into schools and done kind of outreach stuff with a green screen. We have a green screen that goes up on a stand, and we take a computer and just like a little webcam, USB webcam, which can be pretty cheap from the warehouse, and we can set up an entire studio, which is great. There's lots of tutorials online, which is, yeah, there's lots of tutorials online, so you can kind of shop around and try and find people as well. Can't wait to give it a go. Also, I'd love to know how you did your digital mihi using GameFruit. Would you love a tutorial on that or link? Yes, so there is webinars on making mihi with GameFruit. I will send out a link to the recording of this. I will share the link to the previous webinar series I did with free digital tools for learning, because that has all of the links to things like this as well. And how do you import ClapMotion file into OBS? So ClapMotion is slightly complex because the file type that it exports is OGV, and the best video file format normally is .mp4. So there are free file conversion tools online, and then to add it, you need to add so it's called, in the sources you would add a media source, and to that media source you would pull in your file type, which would be a video file. And there's all kinds of to play with. You aren't going to break it. The worst thing that can happen is you have to uninstall OBS and reinstall it. So, and if you do that, it's like switching it off and back on again. So I recommend playing with it, and I recommend getting kids to play with it, because the design of programs like this is such that it should be intuitive to learn. And by jumping in, giving it a go, things and trying to break it, push the boundaries of what you know, you will learn tons and you'll discover opportunities. So yeah, thank you so much for showing up. It's great to have this. It's great to have this kind of support for things like this. I know how popular these things were going to be, but my intention is to try and push people to get outside their comfort zone with tools like this. Next thing, I feel like for a while we've been giving people the very basics, and that is only going to help people for so long. So I want to help people themselves a bit further forward and try something new. So thanks everyone for showing up, and I hope that you'll all be back next week to play with OBS one, and this time with still images and editing still images. So in some ways it's a little bit easier, but ClapMotion is much fun. I had to start with that one. Great. All right, we are now 6 minutes over the time I promised it would take, so I'm going to finish whakamutunga, and then you'll be free to enjoy the rest of your Wednesdays. Tēnei te Māori, ka heke iho ki te whenua e. He rangi atua, he rangi tīpua, he rangi tāwhito. I whiti ko te mātaranga, i tau ko te. Tēnei ka hekitia kia wātea. Haumi e, hui e, tae ki e. Thank you very much, everyone. And I hope you have fun playing with OBS.